What it is, y'all. This is episode 16 of the Buddy Ruski Show. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you're staying safe and doing your best to keep a positive outlook on life because this is one insane fever dream that we are all living through.
What? I don't believe it! Kidding.
It's just as I expected.
My conversation today is with Daniel Watkins, aka Danny Blaze, a former rapper born and raised in Durham, and your favorite rapper's favorite Twitter follow. Danny is one of my favorite people to talk to. He's never without an opinion and always brings a smile and a light to any space he occupies. We talk about life growing up here in the Bull City and how it's changed over the years for us, before diving into his rap career, the highlights, the struggles, and what ultimately led to him retiring from the rap game. As always, thank you so much for listening to the show. Be sure to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/BuddyRuski. You can support the brand there. Subscribe to the newsletter on our website. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff. I'm really excited about what we have cooked up for 2021. I know the year's gotten off to a weird start throughout the country. Weird is, man, that doesn't even do it justice. But I'm really excited about what we're doing here, the brand that we're trying to build, the shows that we might have coming out, the other brands and businesses we might be working with during the year. There's a lot to be hopeful for, and so I hope that that this brand can bring you hope as well. And don't be selfish. Make sure that you're sharing this with your friends and family. If you enjoy the content, be sure to pass it along. I do want to send a special shout out to my buddy Holland Gallagher for the additional music drops throughout the show today. It was a pleasure to have some new music to jazz up the show. So definitely shout out to Holland for that. Also, just want to take the time to pay my respects to the legend Daniel Dumile, MF Doom. You already changed my life, and I'm sad to see you go, but I'm really thankful for the art you put into this world, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Daniel Watkins.
Yeah. I'm a first generation Southerner, man. My dad is from Brooklyn. He's raised in Queens, born in Brooklyn. My mother's from New Jersey, and at some point they decided to come here, and that's how I arrived to good old Durham, North Carolina. But yeah, man, most of my family are all Northerners, and product of there's the stereotype about North Carolina where we're where New Yorkers come to lay low, and it's pretty true. I'm a product of that. I got a bunch of friends there as well. My boy Mike, his parents are both from Brooklyn. It's funny how there's a generation of us that are like a product of that New Yorkers coming to North Carolina stereotype, and I'm one of them. So it's pretty funny, but.
Yeah, well, that feels like maybe we should hop before we do the full bio. Go ahead and introduce you for the people that may not know who you are from your voice. I mean, you have a pretty distinguished voice. So if people don't know who I'm talking to, today on the Buddy Ruski Show, we got Daniel Watkins, aka Danny Blaze. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man. This is my second podcast appearance, so I'm hyped, man. First of which was with you as well. So
yeah, I was thinking about that. I think you were one of the first people I ever interviewed, or the first people I ever covered when I first started at Clarion Content.
Yeah.
7 years ago.
That was 7 years, bro?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember you reviewed the album, the Nerds at the Cool Table album. And wow, I had no idea it was 7 years. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, and that was like one of the first interviews we ever had too. So it's kind of, it's cool coming full circle with these things with you, like the interviews and the first podcast, and here I am with you again,
Yeah, hopefully we'll have something to talk about for years to come as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's one thing about me, man. One of my favorite things to do is run my mouth, baby. So I'm always down to have a good convo, you feel me?
Well, we were talking a little bit about you having that New York connection with your family, them moving down from New York and New Jersey. And it's funny because it is a bit of a stereotype, but I find it to be one of those true stereotypes about people, specifically people in the Black community, making that migration down to the South and end up staying in North Carolina. My theory is that, unless they pop into Washington, D.C., that really the only other place that I can think of that has that kind of draw for the Black community is Atlanta. And so if you
Yeah,
don't get all the way down to Atlanta, then North Carolina, specifically Durham, Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte are maybe Greensboro as well. But they're like the magnets for people, for Northerners trying to get out of that the hustle and bustle of that area.
right, yeah. And I've always wondered why here. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe Georgia is like too far south, and North Carolina, us being like, I mean, you can get to New York in 8 hours. Hour flight, 8 hour drive, and I don't know. To this day, I've never really asked. Like, I wonder what it is that brings so many of them to this area. Especially now, I can kind of see it. We've developed a lot, but you look at Durham, Raleigh, Chapel Hill, and in the '90s and early 2000s, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like, I don't know. It wasn't a lot to attract New Yorkers, in my opinion. Because New Yorkers, man, they're pretty hard to impress. You come from the city that has everything, anytime. You know what I mean? And then you come here. Like I do know the ones I speak to often. Their main complaint is like, oh, it's too slow down here and everything's closed, and But something brought you here still. And I don't know. I never really understood what that was. Even my pops, I think I asked him. I've asked him several times throughout my life, what made you come to Durham? He always gave me some really vague answer, But I don't know. It's interesting. Like we even have like an acronym for Cary, Central Area for Relocated Yankees. It's hilarious because there are so many of them there, and I actually worked in Cary, man. I just left the Whole Foods out there, and I would even say like a good 45 to 50% of the clientele were from New York at some point. Long Island, the city, upstate, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's a really interesting thing, man. I never really understood what it is about us in particular that draws people from New York, but they like it here, and I think that's pretty cool. And we brought I think they brought a lot of their culture to our area as well. You even hear like a lot of New York slang and stuff from people who aren't from New York, and you see, some of them come down here and open up businesses. Now we have like food and clothing shops that from stuff they have back home. It's I don't know. It's created a really interesting dynamic, but I never really understood how that started.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that for some folks it was the research triangle and the universities. But then also, if you think about a place like Durham with Black Wall Street, I'm sure even in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and before that, the Black community was attracted to the industry that was happening here. And it's funny that people make that stereotype about it being slower down here, because I think, and maybe it is partly the New York influence, but I actually think that the Research Triangle in Durham in particular has a nice balance of hustlers and people who want to come and just relax. And I like that balance. I think that that's something, having grown up here, and you having grown up here as well could probably attest to this, that it does have that nice balance of people that want to work hard, want to make their mark, but then also, are willing to kick it on a Saturday, Sunday. They're not trying to bend over backwards to work 24/7 just to keep up with the rat race. So yeah, I think you're right that there has been some influence brought here, but I also think that people are attracted to come to this area because it's not quite New York. You can still be a hustler and be rewarded for it, but not be caught up in it in quite the same way as the other big cities.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, because we have our big city vibes. It's far from New York, but Raleigh, you go downtown Raleigh, it might have that big city feeling that they're accustomed to, but you still got the down south, good old home kind of hang out, drink some sweet tea kind of thing going on too,
People hanging out on the front porch.
Yeah, like Raleigh, you get literally both of those things, Yeah, so I don't know. I think you're right. I think it's a change of pace for them, which I think a lot of them are looking for. despite them saying like, "Oh, it's too slow." But I do think a lot of them enjoy it being a little less chaotic, and maybe less packed. And I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I love New York myself, but last time I went, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I see why y'all kind of leave this place. It's cool to visit, but even after a few days, I was like, man, this is a lot. Like, it's just everything's just go, 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 go all the time, and there's just so many people on top of each other, and I can imagine being there during like now with COVID. Like, oh my gosh, man, I would probably have an anxiety attack, from just so many people being around, and it's crazy. But
Yeah, it's a bit of a proving ground. I feel like a lot of people, especially in their younger years, they go to New York with the promise that if they can make it in New York, they can do whatever they want after that. And so they
yeah,
go and they grind, and they don't have the responsibilities yet. They're maybe not married, they don't have kids. And so this is the only time in their life where they can really do the New York lifestyle.
right,
And then after that, they decide, okay, yeah, I want to start a family. I'm going to move to North Carolina. Or I've made it in New York. Now I want to move out west and do something out west, or start a business in Atlanta, or go somewhere else where the cost of living isn't as high. I can have a little bit more yard space.
yeah, yeah. I've
So
heard a lot say that too. Like they didn't want to raise a family in the city, which I can understand. I can definitely understand that.
is that what brought your parents down here to North
Uh,
Carolina?
I believe so. Like I guess in the general, they both came separately. Funny thing, and then they met. My mom went to Fayetteville State, and then somehow ended up in Durham, and my pops came down here. It's like it's so weird, man. You think I would know, but I feel like every time I ask him, he tells me a different story or a different reason. Like I don't know. Maybe he was on the run or something. He just doesn't want to tell me that. I don't know. Like I never got like a straight answer. Like, well, how did you end up in Durham from he went to Hampton University, so he was in Virginia, but I still don't know how he ended up, a state down from there. So I don't know. I'll ask him again one day, and maybe I'll finally get the truth. I'm 30 now. Maybe you won't have to, give me the kiddie story or the runaround. I don't know. Yeah, they funny thing, they came to the South separately, and then they met, and but yeah, typical North Carolina story, man. A couple Yankees came down and liked it here, and started a family, and
Are you the oldest in your family?
I'm the oldest of four, bro.
Oof.
I am the oldest of four, and it was fun. We had our times, but I definitely have oldest child syndrome, bro. Like I was put to work as a kid, man. Like three younger siblings, bro. My parents were like, nah, son, you got to help hold this down. So yeah, it was a lot of not fun too. I felt like a janitor slash babysitter slash part-time cook, and I'm like 10. You know what I mean? But so yeah, what about you? I've never really heard you say much about siblings. I feel like you got a brother or something, right?
Yeah, I've got a younger sister, so I'm the oldest as well.
Oh,
Yeah, I had an older sister growing up, and then my dad got remarried, and I inherited a stepbrother who's let's see, about 6 or 7 years younger than me. He lives down in
okay.
Georgia, where my dad is, and then I have a half sister now who's about 10. Yeah, so yeah, I got a bit of a scatter shot
I feel.
family, but.
Where are your parents from? Are they from Durham originally, or?
My mom is, yeah. My mom's from Durham, and my dad's from Indiana. So
Oh wow.
yeah, he got down here through my grandfather. His dad worked at Duke in the '80s, and my dad came down to visit him, and then decided he wanted to come spend more time down here. So he ended up moving to Durham shortly after that. And then he and my
Right.
mom met. They actually worked together at this place. It used to be called the Omni. Now it's the Marriott downtown.
Oh, I do remember hearing about the Omni.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't know that was the Marriott now.
Yeah, so they met there, and so yeah, so my dad had been here for quite a while. My mom's been here forever. Her mom has been here forever. So we got quite a long history on my mom's side of being in this area. And my grandfather, my mom's dad, he's from Florida, so he was
Oh, okay.
yeah, he was out on his own pretty early in his life. So but he made his way up here after the military.
Ah, good old Army guy. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's what's up, though, man. Your mom being from Durham, that's pretty cool. Like, I hear and I tell people all the time, too, like, being from Durham is, like, a rarity, man. Like, there's so many people here that are from somewhere else. We're like unicorns, actually, being from, like, even when I tell other people, really, you're from here? I'm like, yeah, I'm from here. Like, I'm sure you get that experience a lot, too, which is one of the beautiful things about this place. We have so many people from so many different places, but, like, it's so weird. I don't know, being in a city where no one's from there, and then you are one of those people. It's just, I don't know. I think that's why we born and raised Durhamites kind of connect so well, because there's so few of us, it seems. Like I could literally count on one hand, I think, how many people I know who are like born and raised in Durham. Like it's crazy few.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's a certain culture too that comes with that is it's interesting to hear the motivations for people why they come here, not just because of jobs or whatever, but there are jobs plenty of places, there are university towns in plenty of places in the country, but there's something specific about Durham, even in the Triangle compared to Raleigh and Chapel Hill.
yeah,
uh, there's something about Durham that brings them here, and it's cool in some ways, and definitely a responsibility to be one of those people that carries the traditions of being a Durhamite and trying to instill that. I mean, that's something that Gabe and I talked about all the time at Runaway was how do we
yeah,
get people to understand Durham, not just as this moment in time, but the legacy of Durham and what it has been, even before Gabe and I were born, and stuff like Black Wall Street. How do we pay homage to that? How do we make sure that we continue to sustain the type of culture that we want to have here? Because there is something beautiful about the blend of people that come, having that mix of people that are born here versus people that move here for whatever reason. And I think for me, it had been a struggle for a long time as someone who was from Durham to accept that, because I think I always saw people moving here and things changing and things growing in ways that I like, but then also in ways that I didn't like as a threat.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and then now I think with more experience and more time and a little bit more wisdom, been able to see the gift of having people move here and bringing their expertise and their own culture and blending that in with Durham, what that has been able to do for the city, for better or worse. But yeah, you're right. Being from Durham is there aren't too many of us left.
yeah, and it's definitely a unique experience, man. You're right. Like we come with our own. Like it's I actually joke about myself a lot. I'm the hey this used to be guy. Like, what I mean? Like I mean I ride around town. Oh yeah, that used to be a Chick-fil-A, and yeah, that before this that was a, what I mean? And it's like I don't know. You kind of can't help but do that because you're right. Like so many things have changed, and it seems like very quickly. Like I don't know, man. You blink and the city's an entirely different place, man. I tell people all the time. There was a point where it wasn't. I guess for lack of a better word, it wasn't like safe to go downtown. You look at downtown now. We got the D-Pack and all these cool bars, and you got Tobacco Road. No, fam, I remember a downtown Durham where 90% of that shit was boarded up. It was abandoned. It was. You couldn't go down there without. I mean, not to any fault of their own. Like no one woke up and decided to be homeless, but it was a ton of homeless people. It was what I mean. Durham had like its own little skid row down there at one point. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to see what it is now. And I'm like you, man. It's a good and a bad thing. It's changed for better and for worse. Unfortunately, when these quote unquote nicer things come around, like property values, and rent prices go up, and it makes it hard for that's the ironic part. It makes it hard for a lot of us who are born and raised here to even be here anymore. It's crazy. Like you look at rent prices, or have you looked at the housing market? Oh my God, bro, it's crazy. Remind me to send you this thing on Twitter later. It was like this house, it's like a shoebox with a little gravel driveway in East Durham. Didn't even have a real driveway. It was like a gravel driveway. They wanted like $50,000 for that. You know, like I'm like, when did Durham become? And in East Durham at that, like, East Durham is,
That's the
East
thing
Durham.
is they don't know. If they just
Yeah,
got here, they don't know.
you're right. Yeah, we know that. You're right.
Yeah.
But you can sell that house to someone moving from Illinois or something, and you put that word. They love that T word, trendy, upcoming, trendy and upcoming. That's a realtor's favorite words, man. They put trendy and upcoming on it, and now you just sold this, this cabinet with a driveway in East Durham for $250,000. Like it's insane. But like growing up here, I never would have thought we'd have this. Yeah, it's wild. Like the gentrification in Durham, I don't know, bro. I never really saw that happening. You're from here. We've always kind of been the rough around the edges kind of place. Like I've literally had people tell me on Twitter, like when they're from, I think last person told me he was from Apex, and like they used to come here to Durham to watch the games, and people would tell them to be careful. We've always unfortunately been kind of known for the gun violence and the gangs and the drugs and just the rundown neighborhoods and the poverty and not all of it, of course, not the whole city, but that was Durham's reputation for quite a while, and now we're kind of, I don't know, we've turned into this trendy, hip kind of dive bar kind of town, and that's cool because I'll be one of the first people you see down there. You know what I mean? Like, I love downtown Durham, man. You'll catch me at Surf Club, Motor Co., Full Steam, Bull McCabe, 106, all of those, But like, it's also like, damn, it's wild because there was a Durham where you wouldn't see 90% of these people down here at all. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and then there'd be nowhere for them to go either. Yeah, I was thinking about when you mentioned East Durham specifically, because I know you went to Hillside, so you spent some time out that way, and I spent a little time over near there when I was going to Central, and it's interesting how certain places in Durham change more dramatically, more rapidly than others, and why that is. And I was driving, one of the few times I've been in a car recently, I was driving back to my house and I was riding down Gear Street my grandparents live over off of 85 near Cheek Road.
Oh, okay.
Coming down that way on East Gear in between
Right.
Alston and I guess it's Roxborough. And there you gotta check this out next time you're in that area. There are these houses that they're 2-story houses. They look very modern. They're just giant houses. There's 3 of them. They all look the same. And they're next to these houses that you're talking about, little shoe boxes with the gravel driveway. It's so bizarre to see where people choose to build these and just what it means for the dynamic of the neighborhood. And man, it's wild to think about East Durham specifically and what might happen to it or what might not happen to it. I mean, my grandparents live about 3 blocks from the Village over there off of Holloway in Miami.
Right.
And that thing, a couple restaurants have changed hands maybe, but that place has pretty much been the same my whole life.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
You would think that it would be ripe for some redevelopment. There's lots of parking, there's the big strip mall type shopping that there was a Lowe's Foods there. I don't know if it's there anymore. They got all the staples, but I've never seen anybody even consider developing in that area. And I have a pretty good idea why, but it's just interesting to think about when people say Durham is changing, Durham is developing. It is very specific areas that are benefiting from it. And I don't know if you know how much you remember from growing up and going to Hillside and that part of town, but a lot of it's still kind of the same. I'm wondering if you can speak to just your upbringing and going to Hillside and just like what Durham was like for you growing up.
Yeah, man. I had an interesting high school experience in general. I actually spent the first 2 years of my high school career at Jordan. I actually went to Jordan for my '05, '06 year, and then I finished at Hillside '07 and '08. And I mean, man, going to Jordan was like, I don't know how many people that went to Jordan, but it was like the Hope Valley kids, the Parkwood kids.
People like Gabe and Getz, those wackos.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, G. Amazawa went to Jordan. Shout out to him, But yeah, there was like I still don't know how, like, I ended up in Jordan. Like, somehow I was in their district despite being down the street from Hillside. It was insane.
Huh.
So, yeah, that's how I spent my first 2 years at Jordan. And, I mean, yeah, man, to be quite honest, it was a culture shock, man. I went to Bethesda for elementary. I went to Shepherd for middle school, and these were predominantly black schools. And I got to Jordan, and it was like the complete opposite. Like, I was the minority all of a sudden, And yeah, and I finally decided to go to Hillside. My second half of high school, I don't really remember why. I probably because it was closer, and I think all my buddies were at Hillside. All my friends from Shepherd were there, and I was kind of like, yeah, why am I going to school across town with Hillside's up the street? And I mean, yeah, man, it was completely different. It was like 95% black, and it was this sounds bad. I hate to say this, but it was a lot more fun than Jordan too. I was very uncomfortable at Jordan because I felt really out of, I guess, my pocket, my element, and I got to Hillside, and I don't know. It's
that's real. That's a very real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you for feeling that way. And, I have some experience with that a little bit, sort of going the opposite direction when I went to college, because I went to Riverside for high school.
Riverside guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But '08, I represent for '08. And then I went I went to Winston-Salem State for a semester. And,
very black
Winston-Salem State. Yeah, exactly. And so Riverside was pretty mixed, but I didn't have like a ton of black peers or friends in my neighborhood or anything like that. And then going to an HBCU was like, whoa, I don't know about, I had fun the semester I was there, but it just was, the culture was so different.
Yeah.
And it does really affect how you see yourself, the way that you present yourself, the comfortability you have. So yeah, I can definitely understand that. And especially for a high school kid, because those are very formative years, and for you to not be comfortable or in your element can have a lasting effect. So were you taking the bus out to Jordan every day?
Yeah, I was. Okay. And I was literally close enough to walk to Hillside. Like, it made no sense. I don't know how they draw up these district lines and all that, but yeah, I was taking the bus, and I mean, it was crazy. Like, that was I think the first time I had ever really seen like those houses out there, like Hope Valley and and Parkwood and all those Woodcroft. I had never really been out there before, because I'm from the South Side, man. Well, I'm from kind of a mixed area in Durham, but whenever that, hey, what part of Durham you from convo comes up, I tell people I'm from the West End and the South Side, and I had never really been out to like that part of town, and this is kind of, well, not pre-South Point. South Point opened in, what, 2002?
I remember it opening, but South Point has always been kind of this unknown for me. Like, I've been out to it a bunch, but I still don't really understand where it is. I just know how to get there.
I feel you. Yeah, South Point is somehow like the epicenter now of all of those neighborhoods, like Woodcroft, Parkwood, Hope Valley, like, but before that, I wouldn't know what you call that side of town. But now we all refer to like that, not even just the mall, but that area as South Point, you know? And but yeah, I say all that to say I'd never really seen that side of town before. Because you know, we were you know, not saying I grew up in the worst neighborhood ever, but yeah, I was in the hood, man. And I, you know, Jordan was the first time I had been outside of that, and you know, I mean, it was also good for me because I mean, it was kind of the first time I had been around, you know, people that didn't look like me. It was a growing experience, which I needed actually. I think it's really bad for you to spend your entire life around just people who share your experience. You know, I don't feel like you can grow spending your entire life around people that look like you, speak like you, eat the same things you do the same things you do for fun. You know, like it was a cool learning experience being around. I was trying not to make it racial, but I'll say around white people and you know, learning some things and just even just seeing the differences, you know, but going to Hillside and being back around people that look like me and it was actually great for me because you know, I don't know, I had like that imposter syndrome at Jordan. It was crazy. And it wasn't even race, it was actually more of a class thing. It was I felt poor. It was the first time I felt poor, bro. I was like, damn, like, you know, you grew up in you know, these places and everyone's kind of got the same amount of, you know, everyone's house is about the same size. Everyone's got the same kind of, you know, clothes. None of us have like the new, what was popping in high school? No one had like the new Rockefeller, you know, the Rockaware fit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but then I got to Jordan. I saw kids with these Nikes I you know, I couldn't afford, and like, you know, like I don't know, bro. It was I was more so uncomfortable because of like it was the first time I was around people who were not in my class, I guess, and it was like, wow, man, it was a culture shock. It was like I've never really been around, rich people, for lack of a better word. I was like, yo, you gotta, I mean, yo, I'm on the bus and you come out of this 3-story house in Hope Valley, you know what I mean? And I got on 6 stops ago, you know, off of Fayetteville Street, you know what I mean? Like it was tough, man. And I got to Hillside, and that's when I kind of, oh man, like I learned about rap, and I learned more about, you know, that's when I started rapping. I started getting in the ciphers and the freestyle circles with dudes, and you know, it Hillside is where I kind of fell in love with hip hop and learned more about that. And because I don't know if I ever told you much about that. I know we've spoken before, and you know, stuff like that. But I couldn't even really listen to rap when I was growing up. Like my mother was very religious. I couldn't listen. I didn't really get into rap until I was like 14, 15, and you know, I had heard songs here and there, you know, going to friends' houses and all that. But for the most part, bro, I couldn't tell you shit about rap like prior to high school. And then I got to Hillside and like, you know, I was around dudes that rap. Like we're 14, 15. Some of these guys been rapping for years, man. I went to Hillside with Cavassier, De Facto. Oh my God, so many people, man. And just being around these dudes and like, you know, learning how to rhyme and yeah, you know, so Hillside kind of helped make me more of who I feel like I am today. But Jordan was a great learning experience, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but it is good to be outside of your comfort zone. And I'm sure you can relate. I don't know if I've ever like asked you straight up. I believe you're biracial, right? Like
yeah. My mom is black and my dad is white.
Right. Yeah, I've seen the pictures on Instagram and stuff like that. And, you know, and I presume, but I never like, you know, came out and asked you straight up. But I'm sure you can relate to that in some sense too. You know, being around your white side and being around your black family, and you know, I'm sure there's like there are the differences that you picked up on. I'm sure that's affected some of who you are as well. You know,
for sure, every day. I mean, I'm still thinking about it. Yeah, to this day, that kind of stuff. The first house that I like really remember living in was over off of Chapel Hill Street. I think they're called Duke Towers now. It used to be called something else. It's basically like in between downtown and Lakewood Shopping Center. It was a very modest neighborhood. It had an apartment complex across the street that had a pool my dad would lifeguard for sometimes, and there were some apartments further down the way. I had a couple friends that lived there. But I remember distinctly, and I don't know if I've told this story on a podcast before, but I think I've written about it, that there was a night I played violin growing up. The elementary school I went to, R.N. Harris, had a
Oh wow, you in Harris?
I went to Arn Harris, yeah. And a friend of mine there, his dad started the violin program at Arn Harris. So I grew up playing, and I was practicing with my dad on the front porch one night, and this woman walked by walking her dog, and these dudes were harassing her as she was walking down the street, and one of them had a, I don't remember what kind of gun it was, but it was a two-handed gun, whatever,
Oh
whatever,
man,
something of significant size and weight, and
right.
and I just remember thinking, I don't even know if I knew how to rationalize that in my head at the time, but I distinctly remember that night because it wasn't long after that we ended up moving from the neighborhood. And I just remember thinking, there's probably
Right,
a
right.
good reason for that. And we
Yeah,
moved into
there's some
Watts
relations
Hillendale.
there.
Yeah, exactly. And we moved into Watts Hillendale, over there down by EK and it was a
Okay.
totally different experience. I could walk around at night and go visit friends, and it wasn't particularly loud at night, with the exception of
Right.
some traffic going up and down 9th Street, and people would be out in their yards and they had gardens, and there were just all these things that were pretty different from where I was used to being. And so I grew up having a bit of that same, I don't want to say culture shock, but that same imposter syndrome where even though we were in this new neighborhood, it didn't quite feel like we were like some of the other people that I was hanging around. And the friends that I made in that neighborhood are my best friends and brothers to this day. So I'm
Oh,
not,
that's what.
yeah, it's not to disparage them, but it did always feel like there was a difference between me and them outside of the racial stuff. Cause I didn't have a lot of black friends growing up. The two brothers that I was friends with actually in my old neighborhood in I think that maybe was the West End. Because we weren't in the neighborhood together anymore, we kind of lost touch as I got older and went to a different school
Right.
and all that. And they were really the only two black friends I had growing up, with the exception of a couple people that I played sports with, maybe. But yeah, I just ended up having a very white circle of friends, and so that's what made the Salem State experience that was a culture shock. And even after that, ended up going to Durham Tech for a few years, and somehow or another ended up being best friends with a lot of the Middle Eastern kids that went there. And even there, it was like we related on the music we listened to, and we were all big basketball fans and stuff, but they were, their religion made their culture very different from what I was used to.
Right.
Something that I didn't have any experience engaging with. And so that was also a learning experience for me, something that I appreciate to this day, where I felt like I didn't just have the view of the Muslim community that the news was giving me. I had firsthand experience talking to people who were practicing Muslims who could actually teach me about the culture in a way that was nuanced and that wasn't through this prism of American politics. And
Right.
so all that to say that I can understand where you're coming from, and I think that's what made Durham special and continues to make Durham special, is those little pockets where, yes, we all grew up in Durham, but going to Hillside's very different than going to Riverside, which is very different from
Yeah.
going to Northern or DA or DSA. And you don't really, unless you play a sport, you don't really end up going to other neighborhoods that often.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
This is
so
true. Yeah. Or those other schools.
so I didn't really learn, to your point about not knowing Hope Valley area that well. I would say the same thing. I hung out in my neighborhood. Some of my friends got their license in high school, so we would occasionally go to other houses and hang out. But for the most part, we were trapped in our neighborhood, or not trapped, but secluded in our neighborhood, playing
Yeah.
basketball, playing Halo together, hanging out in parking lots, and getting into all kinds of shenanigans that I won't go into more detail because my parents listen to this show. So,
Right. Right. Right.
but yeah, so I knew Watts Hillendale really well, and I knew 9th Street area really well. But outside of that, until I got older, I didn't really know all that Durham had to offer. So one of the reasons I actually really enjoy talking to people like you who are from Durham is that I get this history of Durham that I don't know from a peer of mine, as opposed to, because my grandparents, especially on my mom's side, they'll talk about Durham for hours. They got all kinds of stories, and I'm hoping
Right.
one day.
But I'm sure they know a much different Durham than you do. Like you probably can't
Exactly.
even relate.
Or
Yeah.
even for you, they'll talk about similar. They'll do the same. This used to be type of thing for places that you grew up on in the same area. So that for you,
Yeah.
you might drive down a street and be like, oh, that used to be a Chick-fil-A. And for them, they'd walk down, drive down the same street and be like, oh, that didn't used to be a Chick-fil-A. That used to be such and such. And so
Yeah.
it's interesting to have that generational perspective too.
Yeah, absolutely right, man. It's wild you say that, because someone told me the other day the Whole Foods off of up right behind 9th Street. Someone told me there used to be a KFC, and that blew my mind. I don't know why that was so. I was like, what? Like, that thing's been there as long as I think it's been there since like '86. So it's literally been there since like before we were alive. But like, I don't know. You're right, man. Like, I'll tell somebody something like that, and they're like, what? And then, like, it's funny how it can still happen to us, too, despite being born and raised. I'm like, what? That was a KFC? Like, I had no idea, Like, it's a cool little generational thing that I don't think we get to experience too often,
So how did you talked about getting into hip hop music a little later than some folks after transferring over to Hillside? When did hip hop go from being rapping in the ciphers after school to, I think this might be interesting to pursue as a career or as some sort of an endeavor, more serious than just rapping with my friends?
I didn't take it seriously until probably like 2009 or so. I was going to Central, and Ninth Wonder was teaching there at the time. And this sounds horrible to say, but he was kind of the entire reason I even went to college. Like, I was, you know what I mean? I graduated. I finished Hillside in '08. Shout out to us. And I don't know. I had no desire to really go to school after that. I just kind of wanted to. I don't know, man. My pops kept throwing all these options at me. You can go to the military. You can go to college. You can, you can work. And I don't know, the work one just kind of made the most sense to me. I was like, well, I guess I'll make some money. I don't know. Going to school was, it was kind of the thing you're supposed to do. But I was like, I don't really want to have like debt and like student loans and all that, But everyone kept trying to talk me into the college thing. And I was like, all right, I guess. And I was looking at schools, and, I was still kind of getting into hip hop. But I knew Ninth Wonders then. I was a huge Little Brother fan by then. And I was like, oh man, Ninth Wonders at Central? I was like, shit, I'm gonna go there then, And so I applied, got in by some miracle, because I don't recall my GPA being great. But got into the illustrious NCCU, and I don't know what it was, man. Just something about being around like Ninth and some of his artists. He used to have this crew he was working with called M1 Platoon. They're from DC, man. Great guys. Scoop A, Big Chop, all those fellas. And I don't know, man. Just like being around those dudes, I just got hit me one day. I was like, I think I want to do this. Like, I think I want to rap like for real. I don't want to just, just kick freestyles with the homies and that was an interesting time too, because I feel like that was like the beginning of the blog era, and you could really see how you could make music and become a nationally known act over the internet. You didn't necessarily have to be signed like you did, the prior decade, and so yeah, like I give credit to Hillside and Central for that. Just I don't know, something about the culture and the music, man. I was like, wow, I want to do this. I don't want to, be a lawyer or a doctor or anything like my parents. I want to make music, and And I found out kind of early on I was okay at it. I wouldn't say good, but I would kind of get a little like, okay, bro, like, it was nice. I was starting to get more and more of those. So I was like, yeah, maybe I can do this thing. And it's funny how I would grow to kind of hate rap a decade later, but like that's kind of what started me off, man. Just yeah, the music and just being around like just hearing so much of what Ninth had done and been around and yeah, man, I was just like, wow, like this is what I want to do. I think like I dropped out shortly after that because I was like, well, why am I here still? Because I think I stayed as long as he stayed. I think Ninth then went to either Duke or Harvard. And then after that, I was like, well, I don't know, why am I still here? Like the reason I came left. So why am I still here? And I dropped out shortly after that and pursued music. I wouldn't say full time. I was still working, I had to fund said music. But yeah, that's pretty much what led to that, man. Just being a Little Brother fan and seeing Ninth was at Central, and I met so many people there, man. It's crazy. I met Mez for the first time at in Ninth's class. I used to sit beside this dude named Mike, and he kept telling me about his boy from Raleigh named Mez. And I mean, bro, I heard about him for probably months before he ever came down. And then one day he came in and I think he rapped for Ninth, and then they kind of hit it off. And, like I saw with my own eyes so many people that used to come through. I met Rhapsody there. I was literally sitting in the studio with Rhapsody like nights on end. Like, this is still like her Cooley High days. This was before she was, a solo act. But I used to see Rhapsody like 3-4 times a week. It was crazy. Like
that does seem like a wild era for Central specifically because, well, Central and then I guess NC State as well, with the twilight of Little Brother's career as a group, up to that point at least, and the legacy that they had in North Carolina specifically. Because I can't really think of, and you may be able to correct me here, I don't really think of North Carolina hip hop outside of them. Like I'm wondering what the institutions were for them, for Little Brother, that helped them grow as North Carolina rappers. Because before them, I don't know of any hip hop artists, like P.D. Pablo being the one exception, but I don't really think of this area having like a culture of hip hop in quite the same way, which is interesting because there's like this family tree that comes out of Little Brother that really starts to, the seeds start to sprout around, for groups like Cooley High and people like Mez and, and then even folks in this area like Cavassier and De Facto and Tune and Law. And because I think, yeah, that's like where North Carolina or where Durham specifically hip hop starts for me is like 2010 era with you all and Tune and Law and De Facto. And I don't even know I'm sure G was rapping, but I feel like I didn't know G's name until 3 or 4 years after that.
He was on the poetry circuit like before.
Right. I guess that's true that he was doing poetry more full time than rapping.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been huge in the poetry world, but like, yeah, he kind of just started like the rap thing. Yeah, a few years back,
Yeah. But yeah, so it's cool that you were able to have that experience with Knight. I actually took his hip hop history class at Central because he ended up coming back, I guess, years later and was teaching at Central again. So I had his class in 2016, 2017, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to for him to have that, the 2 stints there and what that's meant for the hip hop culture in this area. And so you ended up dropping out, which, I think that a lot of musicians kind of take that route. They get into college, they find their passion for music, and they're just kind of like, yeah, I guess unless I'm here to, do more either like music business or more classical training, then there's not really a reason to continue being in college. You mentioned the internet kind of giving you the map or the blueprint for pursuing music outside of being on a label or needing the institutional backing that was required in the prior decade. How did you see the internet? Because I think if I remember, you and I, this is like 2012, 2013, maybe, on Twitter, you were like one of the first people that I started like really talking to on Twitter. And it was probably 6 months to a year before we actually ever met.
Yeah.
We're constantly going back and forth on Twitter. And I always loved telling that story because it did show the power of the internet and what it was capable of even back then. So how did you see the internet and just yourself in the hip hop scene growing, sort of growing together in your pursuits in music?
Yeah. And it's funny because to this day I still say that was my biggest weakness. I wish I had understood the internet a little more. Like I was aware of its power and, like, social media especially. It was a weird dynamic because I was most inspired by the internet, but I was also, I don't know, everything changes so quickly on the internet too. So I found it hard to kind of keep up, and it's funny how a lot of things even come back, or they come full circle. I remember we were putting our music on Bandcamp at first, and I was told by Mbala, who was my manager at the time, shout out Mbala, she was like, yo, you got to get SoundCloud. SoundCloud's the thing now. And I was kind of reluctant. I was like, well, what's a SoundCloud thing? I was just told it, to get Bandcamp. And, I just started putting stuff on there. So now I got to move everything to the SoundCloud thing. And, I was hesitant to do so, but I did. And then, I finally got kind of decent on SoundCloud. I had a pretty decent following. And then, the streaming era came in, and so despite being so inspired by it, and I'll go back to say, the internet age, the blog era kind of inspired me to take music seriously too, because you were seeing guys like Wiz and Mac Miller at the time, and even Kendrick Lamar. It's funny, the first Kendrick Lamar song I ever heard was on a blog. Like, it was She Hate Me, I think, with Dom Kennedy and Murs, and I had never even heard of this guy, but I heard of them. And so, I clicked on it, and, there were just so many artists from that era that were becoming huge on the internet. And I was like, well, shoot, why can't I do this too? We'll just keep making music. We'll put it on these services, Bandcamp, SoundCloud at the time. We'll try to get on some of these blogs like these guys are, and hopefully it'll blow up, But I will also say I quickly grew frustrated with the internet too, because like I said, man, it's like everything changed so fast. I was never really one step ahead of the curve like a lot of guys were. Like, I was telling somebody this the other day too, man. It's wild. There was a time when live mixtapes was like the thing to be on, and that's like obsolete now. I still have it on my phone just because there are a lot of those really great mixtapes that you can't hear on, your DSPs, your streaming services. But like, it was the best and probably most frustrating thing about making music. Like it really had me jazzed up about making music, because I was like, yo, you don't even need to get signed anymore. It's the easiest time to make music. You just put it out yourself and spread it on your social media, and then get on the blogs. Like, the blogs were a big thing when we were coming up, like early 2010s, and getting on the blogs was like the biggest thing you could do. And it's wild. When I finally started getting on them, they were kind of phasing out,
Yeah. Were there any that stood out to you that you felt like really sort of represented the culture or had a big impact?
Yeah, up until recently, like I was a huge follower of like all of them, man. Complex, Fader, NotRight.com, like all the big hip hop blogs, Hip Hop DX. I literally had like a rotation. I would wake up every morning and just go on all these sites and see what they were posting and what artists they were talking about. And
I mean, that's a bygone era right there. Just the idea of waking up, because I just used to do the same thing with sports blogs, where every morning it was like, I got to go to ESPN front page. It's like check the box scores, see what what blog posts are up there from my guys, like Zach Lowe. I used to read Zach Lowe religiously on
Oh
ESPN,
yeah,
and Bill Simmons before he left, and just like that idea of spending that much time on one website just doesn't really exist anymore, because everyone just gets their stuff through their feeds, and so you kind of are just scrolling through. You see a headline you like, you might click on it, you might not, and then you're kind of just skimming through, and then you move on to the next thing. But that idea
yeah,
of going to a Pigeons and Plains and just clicking through 6 or 7 pages of a blog post doesn't really happen as much. And I wonder, it's interesting because there are always these institutions that find their way to become like vacuums for the democratization of something that came before it. So before the internet was big, you still had magazines that put on a lot of artists. You still had radio shows that were putting on people. And then the internet allowed for, to your point, anybody to upload their music, to share their music. You had all these blogs that popped up because of it that were trying to become, marketing engines for this type of music and culture. And then they all start to consolidate or get wrapped up into the streaming services. And now we're right back where we started with, Apple Music and Beats One and Spotify
yeah,
being the main, and then the social media platforms being the main marketing platforms for artists, and they're forced to go through them. And so it's unfortunate. I wonder what will be the next thing that reopens the floodgates for independent music, because it does seem like it's harder and harder again to break through as an independent musician.
yeah. I feel like all these things that you can do yourself helped and hurt the game. Like it's great that artists don't have to be affiliated with a label or some big machine to put their music out now. But like in the same breath, it's now everyone can do it, and I feel like it makes it harder to stand out or harder to be heard. Which is why I salute the guys who are still somehow racking up plays and getting views with all the competition around. Because yeah, it's you're fighting for everyone's attention now. I feel like it was a little different 10, 15 years ago too, because you had to have some kind of special connector. You had to be plugged in by certain people to do certain things. And now when everyone can do it, it's like, well, how am I going to stand out now? Or how do I, So yeah,
Yeah.
it helped and hurt a lot of things.
And you end up
And
having to do so much of it too. I don't know if you saw this thing that Tree City tweeted not too long ago, but we talked about it on a phone call earlier this week about how you're not only, if you do try to go the independent route, you're not only the creator of the art, but you have to be your social media manager. You have to be your bookkeeper. You have to be, your agent, your booking agent. You're playing all these different roles, and it takes away from you actually being able to spend time to create the art. And then when you're on social, it's not just tweeting things or posting things on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but you've got to be, the content has to be strong enough to get people's attention, to just get them to focus on the thing that you actually want them to focus on. So you're spending all this energy making Instagram videos when you really should be making music or making films or whatever it is that you do. And so you end up having to wear all these hats that end up taking away from the thing that you should be doing or want to be doing. And it's a real, man, it's a shame, because I do feel like it chews up and spits out so many talented people. And if only there were a way to, again, re-democratize the platform so that people whose work is noteworthy could just focus on their art and not have to be, all these other people on top of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I've said several times on Twitter, like that's what led to me quitting rap, man. I kind of fell out of love with it, not because of the music, but because of everything else. Everything else I had to do, and you're right, it was taken away from the music. Like I was finding myself in a place where everything else was more important than the music itself. Like that content word kept coming up. You need to create content. You know, you need these videos, you need photo shoots and all this stuff for Instagram. I'm like, yo, I thought I was supposed to be, you know, making the music, but you're right. You end up having to do all this stuff on top of it, and yeah, it can be frustrating. You know, Tree is right. Shout out to Pat, by the way. You're not just the artist in this age. Like, I feel like the guys before us, they could somehow just be the artist. You know. Whereas in this age, you literally have to do everything. He's right. You gotta manage your social media. You have to book your own shows, unless you're fortunate enough to have a manager, which you know some of us do. But I feel like that's not the case 99% of the time. Most of us are. You're the artist and your manager, and it's a lot, man. And not to mention it's expensive. I think that's one thing a lot of artists don't talk about, man. Like I feel like. We're in the do-it-yourself era, so I know this isn't the case for everyone. A lot of these guys do have their own studio set up. You know, they do know how to mix and master their own records, and then you're putting them out yourself. So, you know, like some of these guys have kind of cut out the middleman on a lot of that stuff. But when you look at how much you have to do to create music, you got to spend money on studio time. You have to pay to get the beats that you're rapping on 90% of the time. Some of us got dudes that'll, you know, just throw you beats. Hey, you nice. I want to hear you on my shit. They'll just give it to you. But you know, even if you do have talented peers and homeboys that are making these beats, you still want to feed their pockets too. So you're still gonna, you know, I can't speak for everyone, but I did. I wanted to still pay people for their work. You know, so you're paying for beats, you're paying for studio time, or even if you're not paying for studio time, you had to pay for your equipment, and that stuff can rack up in the thousands. And then once you got the music, you gotta make a video for it. You gotta pay somebody to shoot the joint. You gotta, you know, if you want to put on a show, you gotta pay to rent the space sometimes. Like music and creating music can be an extremely expensive experience, you know, an expensive process. And that was kind of taking out the love for it too. And I'm like, why am I spending thousands of dollars to create something when I kind of started doing this just for the love of it, you know, but you find yourself having to do that so you can keep up and so you can create a product that's professional enough for people to want to listen to as well. Because, you know, you can't show up with this thing you made in your closet with a Walmart mic and the guy next to you, you know, he went to Burn Unit Studios downtown. Shout out to them. That's a wow. Random, but slightly related. Do you remember that studio? Like, there was a time when there was a studio downtown Durham, Burn Unit Records.
No.
Oh, I'm talking like 2007, 2008. That's unheard of now. Like you know, I hate to bring it back to the Durham changing convo, but there used to be a studio downtown Durham. Like, you know, I think it was over on Foster Street, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that is now. But it was like right across from where Unscripted is now.
Oh, okay.
Not quite where Bodega is, but like maybe a few doors down. But there was a studio down there, you know, and that was one of the first places I recorded. And dude was charging like $50 an hour, which doesn't sound like that much, but you know, you go down there and you're trying to knock out 3-4 songs or an EP, you're spending a few $100s off the rip, you know, and. So yeah, I don't know, man.
We're not all out here doing this in one take.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, you better do it in one take because he's running up that clock, man, you know? So yeah, I don't know. That's the tough part about being an independent artist too, man. You gotta fund yourself, bro. And none of this stuff is cheap. Well, I don't know. I've noticed lately too, like I think the guys and girls have kind of taken the expenses out of it. Like I don't know, music now has a very do-it-yourself feel. Even though it's always been DIY, I feel like now I don't know, maybe something about the pandemic too has helped kind of push this along. But I'm seeing people shoot album covers just on their phones now instead of getting the professional, you know. I'm seeing people just, you know, Wells is a great example, man. Like Wells put out an album that was, he said himself, wasn't even mixed or mastered, you know, and like cats are doing that now where, I don't know, it's like the professional that need to be so professional and have that top grade, everything is kind of gone. and I like it. I fuck with it. I wish I had kind of taken that approach instead of trying to make everything just, oh, it's got to be this and it's got to be that and it's got to be so perfect. And, you know, because that I don't know, that kind of burned me out pretty quick. And I like how now it's kind of, everyone has more of a minimalist approach to it. Even Kelly Kale, shout out to her last album. That cover was one of her Instagram pictures before, she took it and somebody slapped the title on it and everything. And, I don't know. So I kind of, I think it's finally back to what it was supposed to be as the indie stuff, as opposed to us being independent and trying to keep up with the guys who do have a machine behind them. I'm kind of rambling, and I apologize for that. But
no, you're dropping gems, man.
Yeah, it's just so much that goes into it, man. And it was tough to keep up, and I'm glad everyone's kind of taking the lo-fi route, for lack of a better word. Like, just snap the cover on my phone, and they might even make the art on an app they have, and you know what I mean. Like, everything doesn't have to be this Hype Williams production that we tried to make it when I was coming up in the late 2000s and early 2010s.
Well, and that's what people were seeing too. So art is constantly imitating other art, and so if you were seeing the crazy music videos on MTV and stuff, that was a huge part of what music access growing up for us was watching stuff, the music videos on TV. And so if you're seeing people spending crazy amounts with the outfits and all the different things that come with making these hip hop videos, you're like, oh, well, if I want to get on MTV or VH1 or BET, I got to have this same approach. And so, you just start shelling out money. And now that, you're right, people are willing to do the lo-fi version, and the audience is willing to accept it too. I think that's the big thing, is that we are a little bit more willing to give people the benefit of the doubt, or in some cases, watch people progress or grow over time, and as opposed to constantly comparing indie artists to big name artists and what they're capable of, just saying, oh, I like the way that you approach that. I could see how that might grow over time, or how that might evolve. The other thing too about the investment that people put into creative projects is, specifically with music on the streaming sites, is you're not seeing a lot of it come back. So, it's one thing to, put $2,000 into a album to get your money's worth and then some on the other end. Those streaming sites aren't shelling out, really anything. And so you're, and even if you're lucky enough to get, Bandcamp sales or whatever, you're still just not, if you're putting in the amount that you're talking about that was required in terms of equipment, professional videos, photo shoots, all that kind of stuff, there's no way you're getting that back. And so it's a tough game to play, because you're really gambling in a lot of ways on the idea that at some point you're going to hit it big, get signed, get that first check, that'll make it all worthwhile. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And it's not for a lack of trying. It's not for a lack of talent. It's just like, it's like a random number generator. It's just like, maybe your number will get called, maybe it won't. But there's only so many things that you can do before it's just chance. To getting to the point where you decided to hang it up, but before that, I'm curious if there are any particular moments in your career as a hip hop artist that stood out to you as things that you were really proud of, or just moments where you're like, man, this is worth it because of this opportunity that I have in front of me.
I had I'd be lying if I said I had a ton of those moments, because I feel like a lot of being an artist is mostly, the climb and the grind and the constant, trying. I do feel like 90% of being an artist is just trying and trying, but every so often you do have those moments like, damn, this shit is pretty cool and it's worth it. One of which for me was my first headlining show. I had done over 60 shows in about less than that, about 3 years. And more than that, with my partner De Niro P when we were the coolest. But just me being Danny Blaze between like 2015 and 2018, I had done over 60 shows, and I had yet to do my own headlining show until 2018. And yeah, we damn near sold out Pinhook on a Thursday night, you know. And I mean, wow, that was such a great moment, man. Like a lot of my peers were there, and you know, everyone came out and showed support. Man, I crowd surfed for the first time, you know. Yeah, and that was a really special moment, man, to, you know, have done so many opening gigs, and I finally got one of my own, and everyone kind of came out, and you know, and yeah, it was amazing, man. It was amazing. That was one of the few things I like. Wow, this was incredible. I went home with a little money that night. I made sure everybody else got paid. You know, that was pretty cool too. Not even just, you know, supporting myself financially through music, but I got to break off all the homies something too, you know. And yeah, that was, I want to say that was one of the first, like, wow, like this is gonna work kind of feelings, you know. And just shortly before that, actually, I had made Complex, which was like unheard of for a Durham artist, you know. It was like, whoa, like this was like toward the end of the blog era still, but it was still a pretty big deal, you know. Like yo, someone from Durham's on Complex, like I've had very few like, oh, I set the internet on fire moments, but that was one of them, you know. And it was just like, wow, man, it was incredible to see so many people supporting me in that song and that moment, you know. And yeah, like that was it was the How's That Rap thing going with King Mez and De Niro P, rest in peace. But yeah, that was a huge moment, man. Like yeah, I mean, I had a song with King Mez, you know. A lot of people can't even say that, you know. I was like, whoa, and you know, it made it on one of the bigger publications at the time, and so that was pretty cool too. And I don't know, man. I think the one that did it the most for me was when I opened up for Cousin Stiz at Cat's Cradle. I was a big fan of dude, and I don't even know, you know, if it was his team or if it was Cat's Cradle, but somehow my name floated around enough to get someone's attention up there, and they hit me up like, yo, Stiz is in town, you want to open? And I was like, yo, I fucking love this dude. Of course I do. And yeah, man, I had like a 20-minute set and I got paid like $500. You know, like that was a big, like, whoa, like maybe maybe this can work kind of thing, you know. Like that was definitely the most amount the biggest amount I had ever made in, like, especially such a small time, you know. And yeah, like, I don't know, it was just like, you know, if I can get like at least a couple of these a month, you know, and maybe even take it across the country, you know, if I can open up for this person here, and you know. And didn't work out that way, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a big moment for me, man. That was like huge, like, wow, like, you know, I got to open up for and meet one of my favorite artists and got paid pretty decent amount to do it, you know. So and I mean, any artist will tell you, well, that's not true. A lot of us like to act like we get paid from everything we do, and you know, you know, I can't stand those guys. But I'm one of the cats that's gonna keep it real, man. Nine times out of 10, you're doing a show and you're walking away with little to nothing. You know what I mean? They're the guys that you know will act like every time they hit the stage they're walking away with a check, bro. No, you're not. I don't know how hip hop became that genre where we're expected to perform for free, but it is. You know, I don't know. I know guys in rock bands, and I know a couple chicks that make like the pop music, and I don't know. They don't have that same experience, but for some reason, hip hop has always been like, I don't know, you're getting paid in exposure, kind of. You know, I don't know how that happened, but yeah, I say all that to say, like, yeah, getting to perform, doing something I love with someone I really looked up to and admired, and getting paid for it. That was a hell of a moment, man. So Yeah, I not to say, the good times were few and far between, but yeah, you have a lot more downs than ups as an artist. But those were a few moments where I was really like, wow, this is all worth it. Like the money and the constant worrying and always just gonna do numbers. Are people gonna like this? Those moments made all of it worth it. But
Yeah, I think especially at Runaway, there were the nights, especially like the day before a drop, we would be in the store or be in Gabe's house or wherever we had stashed the clothing. We were folding things, unpacking things, getting stuff ready till the break of dawn to have the full day the next day, having to
yeah,
be in the shop, making sure everything goes according to plan. And so there were a lot of days where we're just banging our heads against the wall in the office trying to get the marketing right or whatever. But then you do have those moments where, especially for me, to your point about making sure that that everybody else gets paid, that's part of the process. For me, that was always something that I really loved, was when we would do some sort of collaborative, whether it was like being part of a party or helping out with I don't know, a music video, just like doing something else with other artists in the scene, and seeing them come up to have their 15 seconds of fame or whatever it was, like it would mean something to them, and so it would mean the world to me, and
right.
and it would make some of those tough days, long days, worth it. And it's unfortunate because I think, and this is another thing that Patrick and I talked about, is that it feels a lot like in the creative community, in the arts community, we're basically all just passing around the same $20. It's like the artists are the ones supporting the other artists. And so that's like
Yeah,
part of the problem, and why there, seems to be just not enough money in art altogether, is because your biggest supporters end up being your peers, which on the one hand is awesome to have. I love having the respect of my peers and the people I look up to in the industry, whatever it might be, but that can only take you so far. And so
yeah,
I think that's partly what makes it tough when you're trying to be an upcoming local act of any kind in art, is that we're all basically just exchanging hands with the same dollar bills. And so it makes it difficult for the scene to grow as a whole. But I'm glad to hear that there were some things that stood out to you. And I know you mentioned De Niro, and it was obviously really sad to hear about his passing, given that he, was an important part of the scene for a while, and was part of that first interview that I did with y'all for Clarion Content. So I definitely don't want to gloss over that, and just make sure to give him his due and his respect as being a member of the hip hop community, and just an overall great dude. So
yeah. Thank you, man. He really was, yo. I'm glad you got to experience him while he was here too. You were, you were definitely a big part of our success early on, and you were a big supporter, and I still appreciate that to this day. So
yeah, us '08 Durham grads got to stick together, man.
hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah, man.
What have you been thinking about? So you decided to hang up the hip hop cape, at least for the time being. I won't say never, but at least for the time being, you've decided to retire from the rap game. What other pursuits have you been thinking about? I know you said that you could talk forever, and I mentioned on our phone call before about you getting into the radio podcast game. But what else? What else has been sort of stirring around for you creatively, if not hip hop music?
It's funny. We were talking about podcasts, and I had that idea pop up a time or two, and Caterpillar Jones, shout out to him, Eflin's finest. He put that idea in my head one time too. So I'm like, bro, you'd be a great podcaster, and I don't know. I thought about it, but I don't know. My problem, I like to listen to podcasts too much to make one. I think I literally spend most of my time listening to podcasts. I don't know. I've gotten this weird age where I enjoy hearing people talk more than I enjoy hearing music. You know, I don't know. I think it's just part of being 30 now. Maybe that's just what happens. I'm a big fan of NPR and a lot of their programming, and just, you know, I found myself getting into a lot of the podcasts, and I don't know, like, so I would enjoy making one, because as I told you, I love to talk, and I love talking to people about their lives and, you know, what they've got going on too. But I don't know, like, when me making a podcast, that's less time to listen to podcasts, you know? So, I don't know, but
I trust me, I get it. I'm the same
you know,
way. Every day I get up, I'm like, I got 6 in the queue and they're all an hour long. I'm just like, man, I really should be writing something today or editing the show I got, but
you know, and I'm sure it's a very time consuming thing to do. So, yeah, I don't know. That might happen. That might not. This is a great start. If you know, if I do eventually, you know, get into that. Thanks for having me. You know,
I would be more than happy to be your the tryout for your podcasting career.
Hell yeah! Even when I do that, I might have to return the favor and make you my first guest. You know, but yeah, I thought about that. I actually thought about DJing at one point before this pandemic. I was really into house music all of a sudden. And I don't know, maybe the natural progression from listening to house music is like, hey, now I want to play house music. So I was I think I even tweeted that once, like, yo, I'm going to be a house DJ. Like I really like this music, and I want to play it, and I want to dance with people. So, man, I'm going to do that. But, yeah, then this pandemic hit, and I was like, well, okay, there's no point in doing that now. Like, we can't. Yeah. I might still learn one day. I might, you know. I might cop the turntables and, you know, maybe still get into that. But
I told myself the same thing. I was like, for my 30th birthday, I'm gonna get a set of turntables and start DJing.
Hey, now we're talking. Yeah, man. So I thought about that, but that kind of, I don't know, something about this pandemic, that idea just kind of died. I was like, oh shit. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll learn to do that when we can actually, you know, be around people again. I don't know. But maybe I will start soon, because then by the time we can have shows again, maybe I'll be nice enough to actually, you know, do that. So yeah, maybe House DJ Danny coming soon. But I don't know, man. For the most part, it sounds really whack. But for the most part, I just been kind of doing nothing. Like, a lot of people ask me that, like, okay, you quit rap, what's next? I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I'm enjoying not rapping. Like, you know, I don't know. I feel like we always have to have some kind of what's next after you stop one thing. And I don't know. It's weird too, because I haven't told a lot of people this, but rap was one of the few things I was good at. I don't know. It's weird. I was always an average athlete. You know, I still want to hoop with you and vacay soon. You know what I mean? We're supposed to get up a couple times. Still got to do that. But I'm no Michael Jordan. I'm not trash, but I'm no LeBron James. You know, I was always an average athlete. I was always kind of an average student. I worked in a lot of restaurants over my life. You know, I'm a pretty decent cook, but, like, you know, I couldn't go on like Chopped or anything. You know, I'm an average cook. I've always been kind of average at everything, to be quite honest. Like I'm not like exceptional at a lot of things. Like, so I don't know, when I hung up music, I was kind of like, well, what now? Because I'm not really that great at anything else.
Yeah,
to be quite honest.
That I think that there is some merit though to because I've had maybe certain spikes throughout my life of potential. I think with violin, I got to a point where I was like, I'm pretty good at this, but then it was like, okay, to get to this next level, you're going to have to do X, Y, Z. And I was just kind of like, I don't love it that much. And then same thing with soccer. Like, I was a pretty decent soccer player, and it got to be ninth grade. And I was like, I don't love it that much.
Yeah.
And so, I understand the like being pretty good at a lot of things, but I also think that there's like, there's a gift in that as well. Just having knowledge of and being well-rounded in a lot of different things, because I'm the same way, and maybe it's just like a growing up in Durham thing, but my first job, I worked construction when I was 16 for my neighbor across the street, because I had to help pay for this basketball camp I wanted to go to over the summer. And so my dad was like, you want to do it, you got to get a job. And so I ended up working this job. We were, it was like fireproofing this building they put up over near Duke Hospital. And so I'd have to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, work 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. We were up in the ceilings, like sealing off the seams in the walls, basically to stop, if a fire broke out, it would prevent it from going basically past that room, or help some resistance into the room. So I did that, and I never thought that it was going to be a career, but I was just like, okay, cool. Like I checked that box. I did a little construction work. I woke up early. That's something I can say I did. And then
and at 16, that's pretty impressive.
I wish I had felt more proud of it back then, because this shit sucks. Like I'm miserable right now, but the camp was worth it, and so it paid off. But yeah, and then I ended up working at a video game arcade up on 9th Street for a little while called Snarks.
Yo, I remember that.
Yeah. So I worked there for a couple years.
Shit.
I know.
Wow, sorry, I forgot all about that. Was a really nostalgic moment just now. I forgot all about that place, yo.
Yeah, that was where I became like, that was like my first real job. Doug and Vicky Coleman. Say that again?
Do you remember the name of that place?
Yeah, Snarks. It's like sharks with an N. Snarks, yeah.
Bro, oh my God! Thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot about that. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm having that same, every time I bring it up, I have that same nostalgic feeling. And yeah, Doug and Vicky Coleman were the couple that owned it, and I'm always grateful for them for giving me an opportunity, because I had very little work experience, but Doug ended up being a huge role model for me, and he was a teacher at EK Poe for a while, and started this business among other things that he did, and really taught me a lot about business, about teaching, just like about life in general, because he had biracial parents, and I think they had split up as well, and that was like, for me, my parents got divorced in 2008, right as I was graduating high school. So, and I started working at Snarks in like 2010, 2011. So it was great to have a mentor like that at this job, where I wasn't just learning stuff about the job, but I felt like he was dropping wisdom on me every day, just as a
learning
person.
about life.
Yeah. So I did that, and then I ended up working at Blue Corn Cafe for a little bit, right across the street there on 9th Street. I did basketball coaching at the same camp that I went to as a kid. I coached there for a couple of years.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I don't know, like I've had all kinds of crazy jobs over the years, and I feel like it is not because I was exceptionally good at any one thing, but I had a few things that I could offer where they're like, okay, we can kind of put Justin in a couple different situations. So like, at the restaurant, I was a host, I was a bartender, I was a server. With the basketball camp, I taught high school kids the first year, and then I taught the elementary school kids the next year. So I had a kind of range in terms of age groups I could teach. And even especially at Runaway, like, between Gabe and I being a 2-man team for a while, I was learning how to code websites. I was learning how to run, the shipping software to send the packages out. I was learning how to do social media marketing. We had to learn all these different business things through programs we were doing at American Underground. So it was like this whole time I've just been picking up skills here and there. And even, when people ask me now, what is it that I want to do, or what is it that I'm good at, or what's my profession, it's like kind of hard to nail down, because I'm just like, I feel like it's better for me to just say, I enjoy being a storyteller, than for me to say, I work in marketing, or I'm a marketer.
Right.
I'm saying all this to say that, like, one, I think it's totally fair for you to feel that need to just rest and not have a next thing yet. Because I know I felt that way coming out of doing Runaway for so long, where I was just burnt out. It's like, I don't really want to do anything.
A lot of guys a lot of people were asking you guys that, like, well, what's next after Runaway? What's next? Yeah.
just kind of want to chill. And so I totally think that that's a fair thing to offer yourself, that bit of grace to just say, yeah, I kind of want to just recoup and recover for a second. And then also, I think having a balance of a lot of different things, even if you do feel like, maybe I'm just average at these, I think that there's strength in that. And it just means that you have a lot of doors that you could walk through. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that that's cool that you're just in this hibernation mode, because I think it will mean whatever you do next, you'll feel invigorated by it and fully rested from the thing that you just did. So whether it's
Yeah.
podcasting or whatever it is, I think I can speak for a lot of people that we would be excited to see you hit the scene again and whatever project takes shape.
Hey, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that, yo.
I got to make sure before, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I got to make sure, because Ryan will kill me if I don't ask about it.
Shout
You
out.
may even know. Yeah, definitely shout out to Ryan Coca. The what it is y'all on Twitter.
Oh
It was
man,
like
yes.
it was like a news alert we'd get every morning. It's like, for sure, if we get on Twitter, there's Danny with the
Yeah.
what it is y'all, and we got to know where did that come from? What did you hope to get out of that? Just like, are you just trying to put more positivity into the world? What is the story behind? Because I think even if people don't know you as a musician, you on Twitter is like, I've said for years, I feel like your Twitter presence is like top 5 all time for people that I've followed.
Oh, appreciate that, man. For real. That's because there are millions of Twitter users, and considering me top 5 on it, man, that means a lot, yo. For real, that means a lot. And it's hilarious to think about, because I really I just get on Twitter and I don't know, man. That place is just a world of its own. It's great. It's just thinking about. I spend half of my day just thinking about something I saw on Twitter. You'll laugh out of nowhere, and people are like, "What's this guy laughing at?" And I'm thinking about some tweet from 2 days ago. Like,
I still think
Twitter.
it's the best. It's probably the craziest platform, but I still think it's the best. I think it has the
Oh yeah,
most variety for what you're going to get, and it's a lot less polished than your Instagrams and your TikToks. People are just flying off the handle on Twitter.
yeah, which is a good and a bad thing. But like, the thing I love about Twitter, man, is everyone's real. Like, I don't know, everyone on Instagram is just acting like their life is so perfect.
Well, it's through a filter. That's why they have filters. It's all through a filter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like literal and figurative filters,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like we come on Twitter and it's the place to let loose, man. It's the place to be who you really are. It's the place to be who you want to be. It's the place to say what you're really feeling, good and bad. Twitter's gotten a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
For saying some less than great things, but yeah, I would have to agree, man. It's definitely the best platform by far. And yeah, to answer your question about the what it is y'all thing, it's funny. It started really okay. There was that song from T.I.'s album Paper Trail, What Up, What's Happening.
Yeah.
And he starts the verse by saying, "What it is, bruh, what it do, man." And like, I don't know, it's like I just tweeted like, "What it is, y'all," one day, because I that song was hot at the time. I wanted to be more inclusive. I didn't want to say what it is, bruh, because clearly there are a lot, women and otherwise on Twitter. So I didn't want to say what it is, bruh, but yeah, so I don't know. I just got on there one day. I was like, "What it is, y'all?" And like, people just kind of started. I don't even think I meant to originally like pose it as a question, but it was just me just literally just kind of, I don't know, like T.I. voice, what it is, y'all. And then people would start like answering. They would start kind of telling me what was going on, like, and then like next thing I just kind of started doing that every day. I don't even know how I started. Like, I literally can't do anything on Twitter until I get the what it is y'all off, and
that is a crazy amount of discipline. That's like,
yeah. When did I
seems...
look? I've tweeted that every day for like since like 2011.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like I really went back one day and looked at like all of them. I don't know why I was that bored, but I searched my name and what it is, y'all, and Yeah, I think I've been saying it since like early 2011, so a good 9 years now. But which is also a wild amount of time to be on Twitter. But
Yeah, I'm afraid to look at my Twitter before, like, honestly, like 2 years ago.
oh
I
god,
don't, I don't think
yeah,
that I want to know what I was tweeting. Although, you know
yeah,
what? I could probably tell you, because I think Twitter, when I first started, was basically just like song lyrics that I liked. And I mean, it was like everybody else. It was just like the most random thoughts
yeah,
that you had during the day, or just,
yeah,
yeah, it would be like song lyrics that I thought were cool.
yeah.
And it seemed
You
so
remember?
much innocent.
Yeah, and there was a point where Twitter was literally just us all saying what we were doing at the moment, like going to the mall, going to eat, watching the game. Like I don't know how we evolved, but I'm glad we did because there was a point where that was it.
Yeah.
We were all just tweeting what the hell we were doing, and like I don't know. At some point, it became this this thing that it is now, which is just insane. But
You should really look into the Guinness Book World Record for like most this tweeting the same thing the most days in a row, because 9 years is a long ass. I mean, Twitter's only been around for a few more years than that. So,
yeah,
you know, I don't know if they write checks for world records, um, but it would be an interesting thing to look into.
yeah, that you're right. I didn't think about that. Like, yeah, I wonder if I have broken some kind of record for most consecutive tweet. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I never thought to look into that. You're right. That's very possible.
We should just put the internet to task on this. People listening to this show, we just be like, hey, look, let's hive mind this thing and see if we can get Danny his world record trophy.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty cool thing to have a record for. Most consecutive tweet. Wow, yeah. I don't know. I gotta look into that. We gotta tweet Guinness and ask, like, hey,
Yeah.
what and who currently hold the record for most consecutive tweets, and have I broken that? Because you're right, 9 years is a long time, and I don't think I've missed a day. Not to brag or anything, but I there have been days I literally just tweeted what it is, y'all, and nothing else. Like even if I didn't say shit else, I think I still did that. Which
Dude,
is
I'm saying, like, every year I try to, I have all these resolutions where I'm going to start a journal. I'm going to read this many books. I'm going to blog this many times, all the things that people come up with every year. And by March, it's somehow fallen off if I even get that far. And so to be able to do something for 9 years is like, there's an incredible amount of discipline to be admired in that.
well, thank you, man.
Well, we've already been running pretty long, but this has been an incredibly enjoyable conversation.
That has.
I have always enjoyed in the opportunities that we've got to hang in person, talking to you on shows like this, on Twitter, pretty much anywhere that I can get some time to speak with Danny Blaze has been a blessing and a fun experience. So thanks again for being on the show. And again, let me know about that podcast if you decide that's a pursuit that you want to take on. I think the world is ready for it. So just let me know.
Yeah, we'll do, bro. I would definitely look to you to show me the ropes if I decide to do that, man, for real. And yeah, thank you for having me on this, bro. For real. This has been a blast. I didn't realize it had been that long. You're right. Like this has been it's been a long one, but it's been a good one.
It's been a great one.
Notice. You don't even notice when the convo is good, man. So yeah, thank you for real. And I look forward to seeing you and talking to you again soon, man. Hopefully this COVID thing slows down. We gotta go somewhere get a drink or something. And,
no doubt.
Yeah, man. Well, this has been great, man. Oh, we gotta talk like off mic about sports. That's the only thing we didn't get to, man. We gotta talk about Rockets. We gotta talk about you and this hard.
We should definitely do that off mic because I think it might get a little inflammatory. So,
oh man.
with that, yeah, maybe we'll cut this. If people want to find Danny, he is on Twitter and Instagram. Your boy Danny Blaze. I'll put it in the show notes. And like I said, top 5 Twitter follows. So if you're not following him on Twitter, at the very least, you got to hit that follow button and start tuning into this guy because he's a true gem on Twitter and just as a human being in general. So Yeah, thanks again for being on the show, and we'll see y'all next time.